In the previous lectures, we understood what are columns and what are column expressions and what are rows. What we will do is, to really have a rows and columns, we need to have a data frames, right? We'll get started and see how do we create the data frames as a part of this lecture. Ready to go? Let's get started. First and foremost thing is, we can create the data frame in three ways. In a way, you have already seen one or couple of ways of creating the data frame. But let us try to understand them in detail as a part of this lecture. First and foremost way is, you can create the data frame from raw data sources. When you say raw data sources, what are they? It can be CSV file, it can be JSON file, even the RDBMS databases as well. So we can create the data frame using the raw data source. One more way of creating the data frame is by creating the set of rows. For example, you want to create a data frame on the fly. That is when you can go ahead and create a set of rows and create a data frame. Third way is by using some methods like toDef and create data frame. In a way, create data frame also can be used as a part of creating the data frames when you are trying to convert the rows into the data frames. So these are the three ways you can create the data frames. Now let us see them one by one. We can create the data frames using the raw data sources. So as I said, raw data sources can be a CSV file or JSON file or even WARC file or parakeet file or even the RDBMS databases. Using all these sources, we can go ahead and create the data frame. This is one of the very important way through which we will be creating the data frames. And it is the most used way of creating the data frames in a PySpark. So how do we do that? First and foremost thing is, we have to give a data frame name. The data frame name can be according to the project whatever you are trying to work on. The project can be of a retail data, it can be of a flight data, it can be of a healthcare, it can be of anything. Most of the times, you should ensure that whatever the name you are giving for the data frame is logical and pertinent to that particular project. Next thing is, as we know, before we really work on any of the things, we need to go through a Spark session. So then we need to use a read. We'll be seeing what is the read function as a part of the upcoming lectures. But as of now, just understand that in order to create a data frame, we need to use a Spark session, read, and also we need to specify the format. And there are multiple options. As of now, let us not worry about them, but we'll try to see them as and when we go to the next section. So give a data frame name, use a Spark session, read format and provide the format and provide the path where exactly your file is there. In this case, we are trying to create a data frame out of JSON file. I hope you understood how do you create the data frame using a raw data sources. Next thing is, we have to create a data frame on the fly by using set of rows. So how do we do that? First and foremost thing is, we have to create a schema. How do we create the schema? We need to import all the SQL types before we creating the schema, like struct field, struct type, string type or long type, whatever the data types you are going to use as a part of creating the schema, you have to import them first. And as we have already understood, how do we create the schema? By using the struct type. In struct type, we have struct fields. In struct fields, we have three important things. First thing is the column name. The second thing is the data type. Okay. The third one is Boolean. You need to provide these three things as a part of the struct field. Depending upon how many columns you want to create, you can provide those many number of struct fields. In this case, we are trying to create 3 columns. We created a schema. What do we need to do now? The next thing is, you have to create the rows. Depending upon how many rows you want to convert into data frame, you have to create so many number of rows. In this case, we are trying to use only one row and create. In the previous lecture, we already understood how do we create a row by instantiating a row object, and also provide the column names like name 1, surname 1, and also this is a boolean value. Now we already understood if you are trying to create a row, you should ensure that the schema of that row should be same as that of the schema of the data frame which you are trying to append this row into. That is what is important. In this case, we are trying to create a schema of 3 columns, and also we are creating a row of these 3 columns. What do we do next? We already done a preparation now. We have created a schema, we have created a rows. Now by using these two, let us try to create the data frame. Very simple. You have to provide a name of the data frame you are trying to create. This is the name of the data frame. You use a Spark session and use a create data frame method. Then whatever the row you have already created, bring that here, and whatever the schema, whatever you have created, then you can put that here. Your data frame is created by creating the rows and converting that into data frame. The second method is easy, right? Let us understand the next aspect. As we have already seen, while creating the data frame by using the rows, in a way we already use a create data frame method. There is one more method called toDF method, through which also we can create the data frames. But in order to do that, you need to have a sequence of numbers. For example, in this case, if you see, we are trying to create a sequence of number by using a range method, and then we are using a toDF method to convert this range of numbers into data frame. So you can give a data frame name, use a Spark session, use a function to create the sequence of numbers, then use a toDF method to convert this range of numbers into data frames. Then in case of create data frame, we have already seen in the previous way of creating the data frames. First, give a name of the data frame, use a Spark session, then use this create data frame method, like take the rows and use the schema. Now, if you really see the difference between toDF and create data frame, one very important thing is, in case of create data frame, we can go for a schema customization. Means we can convert the data frame in such a way that that particular data frame adheres to particular schema. But we don't have that control in toDF method. That is one of the important things. The next important difference is, we can usually use the toDF method for the local testing. For example, we can create the data frame using a toDF when you are trying to work with the terminal and all those things. But on the other hand, create data frame can be used for a local testing as well, and also code in the production as well. Wonderful. We have seen how to create the data frame by using different ways. Now let us look into the practical. Conceptually, we have understood how do we create the data frames. There are 3 important ways. One is by using the raw data sources. The second one is by taking the set of rows and converting that into data frame and using methods. So the first method is, you are creating a data frame by using a file which is a data source. I have already opened Atom, a text editor which I use for writing my code, and then we'll have the terminal open. So first and foremost thing is, let's say we will name the data frame as my first data frame. Then we have to use a Spark session, read, and also we have to specify the format. In this case, we'll be using a JSON. Then we have to use load method and provide the path. In my case, I'm there in a path where I already have a JSON file, but the way you can do that is, in case if you are not, let me open one more terminal, assuming that you are in a home folder. So you are in this folder. Now you have to navigate to a folder where your data is there. Okay, so data, flight data, and JSON. If you see here, you have the files. So now I need to copy this path. Yeah, path is there, but where is the file?
we need to go ahead and copy the name of the file as well. Let's take this particular file. With this, now you are all set to create your first data frame. We're going to execute this as a part of our Spark. Yes, it is created. Let me go and see whether it has the data or not. It does has. You can see there are three columns: destination country name, origin country name, and also count. If you open and see this file, you will be able to find all these three columns. As we have already seen, one more way of looking at is what are the columns we can check by schema. So these are the three columns: destination country name, origin country name, and count. If you want to see only the less number of rows, you can go and specify that. So you'll see only 10 rows. By default, show 20 records. Now that we have seen this, let us move on to the next way. Next way, as you have seen, we are creating the data frame from rows by creating a schema first, then creating the rows and creating the data frame by using the schema and rows. Let us see this. Let us create a schema. So let me go and create a schema. Say my first schema is equal to. So first, before you do that, you have to import the types from PySpark SQL dot types. Okay, import. You have to import the struct type, struct field, and long type, integer type, and also you need a string type also. Okay, you need to import that. Let us go ahead and create a schema. As we already know, schema is having a struct type. Does brace, then brace. Sorry, it is a square brace, and within that, as you know, we have a struct field. Struct field would have the name of the column. Let us say we'll just give first name as employee ID. Then we have to give the type also, string type, and then we have to give the boolean value. Comma, copy this whole thing. We are creating a schema with three columns. We'll change this. Okay, so now let the second column be employee name, the third column be employee salary. We'll make the employee salary as integer type. I think our schema is ready. So once the schema is ready, let us go ahead and execute these two things first and see if they are working fine or not. I'm going to import these types because we are creating a schema with all these types. Okay, import is done. Then let me go ahead and create the schema. Schema is created. We need to have a rows which are same as that of first row. We'll say to open employee ID can be anything. So let us say employee ID, since it is a string, you can say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then employee name will give as Rosie, and we'll give the salary as some $6,000. I hope we are ready with our first row. Let us go and execute this. Your first row is ready. Now what we'll do is, now that schema is ready, first row is ready, we'll go ahead and create our data frame. Let us make it, name it as a row to df. Row df is equal to spark and create data frame, then open this and so my first row. This is the one, and then provide the schema as well. So copy this from here and paste it here. Let us go ahead and create this. Yes, we successfully created data frame by using a row. You may be wondering, how do we create the data frame by using multiple rows? We'll be seeing that in upcoming sessions. Now that we have created a data frame by using rows, let us see what are the contents of this. Yes, we have only one row. You can see all of that is there as a part of the. Okay. Also, you can check one more thing. Let us check what is the schema of this. Okay. So print schema. Yes, you can see what are the schema we have provided here. The same schema is there here also. That is the way you create the data frame by using rows on the fly. The next way, we already have seen how do you create the data frame by using create data frame method while creating the data frame using the rows. The next way is how do we create the data frame by using a 2DF method. We can use this method in the sequence of values. Let us see that now. Let us say one more. Let us say range data frame is equal to spark spark dot range. Then let us give some 10 values. That is enough. So then say to df method, then we have to provide the number name the column. Let us say number here. This is how you create a data frame by using a 2DF method. Let us go ahead and say this here, how it works. Yes, you successfully created a data frame using a 2DF method. The sequence of number, if you go and see this, we'll have 10 values. Hey, wonderful. Please practice all these things without fail in your system. Thank you.